Breaking tonight, a deal was signed in Ottawa that most people will scroll right past. A Swedish defense contractor and a Toronto artificial intelligence company shook hands on a partnership. Sounds routine, sounds boring. It is anything but. Because when you pull this thread, what unravels is the most ambitious defense technology strategy any middle power has ever attempted. And at the center of it sits a company most Canadians have never heard of. Its name is Cohere. It was founded by former Google researchers in a Toronto office 6 years ago. Today it is valued at $7 billion, and it is quietly becoming the artificial intelligence backbone of Canada's entire military future. Here is what just happened. Saab, the Swedish defense giant behind the Gripen fighter jet and the Global Eye surveillance aircraft, signed an agreement with Cohere to explore integrating Canadian AI into the Global Eye platform. Now, the Global Eye is not just any surveillance plane. It is an airborne early warning and control system built on a Bombardier Global 6500 business jet, a Canadian-made aircraft assembled at Toronto's Pearson Airport, Swedish radar, Canadian airframe, and now Canadian artificial intelligence running through its nervous system. But dear viewers, this is where the story gets far more interesting than a single partnership announcement. Because Cohere is not just working with Saab. This Toronto-based AI firm has simultaneously signed deals with German submarine manufacturer TKMS and South Korean defense powerhouse Hanwha Oceans. Both companies are competing for the contract to build Canada's next generation of submarines. Think about what that means. Whichever company wins the submarine bid, Cohere's AI is already embedded in their proposal. Canada's artificial intelligence wins regardless of who gets the contract. That is not luck, that is strategy. Founded in 2019 by former Google researchers, Cohere has grown into a $7 billion enterprise AI company with over 800 employees. Its technology powers language models that can be deployed on-site, air-gapped from the internet, operating in environments where data security is not a preference, but a matter of national survival. And that capability has made it irresistible to defense contractors around the world. Consider the timeline. In late 2025, Cohere partnered with Thales Canada to bring AI into Royal Canadian Navy operations, servicing Arctic patrol ships, joint support ships, and minor warships. Cohere's co-founder Ivan Zhang described the system as one that would analyze complex naval environments in real time, delivering actionable intelligence at operational speed. Translation: Canadian AI is now helping the Navy think faster than any adversary can act. And here is the detail that makes engineers pay attention. Cohere's models can be installed directly on a ship, processing sensor data on board without ever transmitting information back to shore. No data leaves the vessel. The crew can effectively talk to the ship, identifying which components need maintenance, which threats require attention, and which operational decisions need to be made first. In an Arctic environment where communications are unreliable and distances are immense, that kind of autonomous intelligence is not a luxury. It is a survival advantage. Then came the contract with Canada's Cyber Intelligence Agency, the Communications Security Establishment. Internal government documents revealed that CSE had already been using Cohere's technology, a deal so sensitive that the agency declined to disclose any details, citing national security. Meanwhile, Cohere was quietly working with Palantir, the American intelligence software giant, deploying its models for undisclosed government clients. And in early 2026, Ottawa awarded Cohere its first publicly disclosed federal contract. The company's flagship Command A model was integrated into CANChat, the government's in-house AI assistant, now rolling out to every federal public servant across 20 departments. 11,500 employees were already using it, and the rollout was accelerating. Sovereign AI, built in Toronto, running Canadian government operations from the inside. AI Minister Evan Solomon made the government's posture explicit. These memorandums of understanding are leading toward contracts. Ottawa was not just experimenting, it was committing. Dear viewers, if you are watching this and thinking this sounds like the early chapters of something enormous, you are right. Stay with this channel, because what is unfolding in Canadian defense is a story the mainstream press is not connecting yet, and you are ahead of it. Now let us talk about what the Saab deal really means in the bigger picture, because this is not just about one surveillance aircraft. The Global Eye sits at a crossroads of geopolitical forces that are reshaping Canada's defense posture entirely. In June 2025, the United States U.S. Air Force canceled its procurement of the Boeing E-7 Wedgetail, the aircraft that was supposed to replace America's aging AWACS fleet. Months later, NATO followed suit, canceling its own E-7 acquisition. That created a vacuum, and Saab's Global Eye rushed in to fill it. France signed a $1.3 billion contract for 2 Global Eye aircraft in December 2025. Sweden ordered its third unit. Denmark and Finland entered discussions for a joint purchase. Suddenly, the Global Eye was not just a Swedish product, it was becoming NATO's next-generation surveillance standard. And its airframe? Canadian. Its AI integration? Canadian. Saab even signed a framework agreement with French maintenance provider Sabina Technics for modification work and partnered with Canadian training giant CAE for simulation platforms. A Canadian pilot named Weston Pike serves as the Global Eye's flight test engineer. He described the aircraft's capabilities bluntly. You can see everything happening in the air, on the ground, and at sea, at distances exceeding 450 kilometers. The manufacturing jobs Saab is promising if Ottawa buys in? 12,600 positions across Ontario and Quebec, with production centers supporting both domestic use and export markets, including potential sales to Ukraine, Egypt, and Germany. This is where the Gripen question becomes unavoidable. Saab has submitted a proposal to Canada covering 72 Gripen fighter jets alongside 6 Global Eye aircraft. The Gripen was the runner-up in Canada's fighter competition, and Saab has offered to build the jets on Canadian soil. Meanwhile, the Liberal government has been reviewing its planned purchase of 88 F-35 fighters from Lockheed Martin for over a year now. That review is not academic. Industry Minister Melanie Joly told reporters directly, "The government wants defense investments that create Canadian jobs, and Saab is offering exactly that." Nobody is saying the F-35 is dead. The first 16 units are set to roll off the production line for Canada this year, headed to a U.S. training base in Arizona before arriving on Canadian soil in 2028. But the landscape has shifted. The conversation is no longer about which fighter jet performs better in a technical evaluation. It is about which defense ecosystem delivers more sovereignty, more industrial capacity, and more strategic independence for a nation that is rapidly rethinking its relationship with Washington. And that brings us back to Cohere, and to why this AI company is the thread connecting everything. Think about what Canada has assembled. A Toronto AI firm valued at $7 billion, partnered with the Navy's ship maintenance contractor, embedded in the Cyber Intelligence Agency, integrated into the federal government's operations, working with both submarine bidders and now plugged into the surveillance aircraft that NATO is adopting. Cohere has also signed memorandums of understanding with both the Canadian and United Kingdom governments, a deal announced when CEO Aidan Gomez met with Prime Minister Mark Carney and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Ottawa. Carney himself called Cohere a Canadian success story, saying the two countries were creating opportunities in AI on both sides of the Atlantic. Translation: Ottawa is not buying weapons systems. Ottawa is building a defense artificial intelligence ecosystem with a Canadian company at its core, and then inviting allied nations to plug into it. When Cohere hired Meta's former AI research chief, Joël Pineau, as its chief AI officer last year, Opening a second Canadian office in Montreal, it was not just a corporate recruitment win. It was a signal that Canada's AI talent pipeline is deep enough to compete with Silicon Valley on the battlefield of intelligence itself. This is what strategic autonomy actually looks like. Not loud declarations of independence, not angry press conferences, quiet, methodical construction of technological infrastructure that makes Canada indispensable to its allies while reducing dependence on any single partner. Every submarine bidder needs Cohere. Every Global Eye operator will run Canadian AI. Every NATO surveillance mission flying a Bombardier airframe carries Canadian industrial DNA. Dear viewers, we talk a lot on this channel about Canada's evolving role in global affairs. We track the trade negotiations, the diplomatic maneuvering, the energy strategy. But what Cohere represents is something different. It is the emergence of a Canadian defense technology layer that sits underneath the hardware, underneath the jets, the ships, the radar systems, and connects them all. The country that makes the intelligence layer does not need to make every weapon. It needs to make every weapon smarter. And right now, from a headquarters in downtown Toronto, a company most of the world still associates with enterprise chatbots is doing exactly that. The defense contractors noticed. The intelligence agencies noticed. NATO noticed. The only people who have not noticed yet are the ones not watching this channel. If this story matters to you, if understanding the forces shaping Canada's future before they hit the front pages is why you are here, then stay with us. Share this with someone who needs to see it. Because this is just the beginning of a transformation that will define Canadian security for the next 30 years.